Kmart.
Interesting.
And
7 o'clock.
the Teamsters were picking
Do we have
up
any
some
quorum?
workers. And so the manager said, okay,
I think we do.
look at this truck. And
But,
guys go down there. We're gonna pick up
We
this
all
stuff.
said we would be
Okay,
last week. We talked about that. We actually said 7.
Make sure there's no trouble.
I just saw the thumbs up, I think.
Ren?
Thumbs up.
All right, I've seen the thumbs up. That means it's 7 o'clock and we're ready to go live. Sorry to interrupt, gentlemen. I would like to call to order the July 2nd, 2025 meeting of the Environmental Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian. Would staff please call the roll? This should go quick.
Starting with Commissioner Belisle.
Here.
Commissioner Fraser is absent up in the UP. Commissioner Sarver.
Oh, server. You got to talk a little louder.
I'll speak up a little bit here into the mic here. Commissioner Mixacek.
Here.
Commissioner Peterson.
Absent.
Absent. Commissioner Batten.
Here.
And Trustee Nicholas Lentz. Absent. And I think that's it. For staff, we have me, I'm Jack Hughes, project engineer, and then we have Casey Hart joining us as another project engineer, as our senior project engineer.
Thank you. If we had a presentation, we would have that at this time. I don't believe we do. Then we would have citizens address agenda items. I don't believe we have any citizens addressing agenda items. Do we have any communication since the packet went out?
No.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I so move.
No second.
Moved by Commissioner Mixacek, seconded by Commissioner Sarver. Any discussion of the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving to the minutes of the June 4 regular meeting. I know that Commissioner Mixacek had some typographical additions to a section. I don't know if they clean as well as glean, but I'm sure they're clean gleaning. That could be a catchy title. There was I was able to watch portions of the recording of the meeting, but got an error halfway through. But in Trustee Lentz's report on the township board, the very last sentence of his report, I didn't quite catch the meaning of that. It was either an imperial command or a summary of something that was in relation to
Howdy. Totally missed you on the roll call.
not that one.
The tri-county update.
What was the last sentence of that paragraph?
I could,
Oh, there.
This is seen as an encouraging sign reflecting increased engagement in regional surveys, even though recommendations don't always guarantee immediate results. That one?
No. It's on PDF page 5, the second Full paragraph, the 2026 budget has not yet been approved. And the last sentence is, the Environmental Commission expects to discuss climate sustainability funding to address any roll forwards of previous funding. Does that mean that the board is hoping that we will discuss this? Is that what he was conveying when he said that?
Yeah, we may have to clarify with him on that, but I think that was something that he wanted to bring to either the August, I think it was to the August meeting, was a discussion on what to do with kind of previous year's funds.
Okay,
I think that's what he had in mind there.
that's fine. Any other changes, additions, subtractions, deletions to the minutes? Without objection, that motion carries. The minutes are adopted. Moving then to new business, we have, for the first time in quite a while, a very thick packet because there's a wetland use permit. And I believe we have staff here to walk us through it. Welcome. While you're coming up to the podium, I'm just going to say that this is one of those projects that's been on my wish list for an awful long time. For many years, I've been riding on that road, and the pathway down into the pond has been a thing that we've been trying to fix for years, and we're finally closing in on it. So sort of dream come true.
Awesome. Well, yeah, glad to hear that. Good evening, commissioners. My name's Casey Hart. I'm with the engineering department. And this evening, we're discussing the Schultz pathway. It's on the north side of Bennett Road, and it's kind of located in between the two driveways you see on the screen. The one to the west leads to the Schultz Veterinary Clinic, and then the one on the east is to Okemos Public Schools bus garage, but it also circles over to Bennett Woods Elementary School. So further to the west on Bennett Road, there's actually a subdivision development that's currently being built. And last fall, they did extend the pathway along Bennett Road on the north side to the Schultz Veterinary Clinic driveway. So right now, we just have a pathway gap, basically where that large wetland is, between the two driveways. And it's crucial for us to get that filled because this development, they're starting to apply for building permits. And once those homes are established, we want to make sure that students have a safe route to get to Bennett Woods. So, Jack, if you want to flip to the site plan, what we're proposing is mostly to fill this gap as a boardwalk. It's going to be 8 foot wide, railing to railing. It spans about 325 linear feet. And it's supported by helical piles that will, have our contractor drill into the wetland. So the only actual permanent impact is going to be where the piles meet the wetland. We have 52 of the piles, and the helixes on them are about 10 inches in diameter. So that comes out to a permanent impact of around 28.3 square feet. So, pretty low, and that's the whole reason for boardwalks, right? To minimize the impacts. So, Jack, if you want to flip to the wetland mitigation kind of plan. Per, the township's ordinance, we do have to mitigate any permanent impacts, and we plan to do so in the wetland, I'll call it a wetland bank that we created with the MSU to Lake Lansing Phase 2 section of the pathway. This might look familiar because I presented on the exact same thing a couple months ago on our sanctuary pathway. So what we did was we expanded an existing wetland by 0.14 acres. So there's plenty of additional space for this small impact to be mitigated in. And then Jack, if you go up one sheet, this is a snip of the green space plan. So in the light green, that's the priority conservation corridor. And I just called out our project location. We are not located within that. So I just wanted to, bring that to light and show that as well. The last thing with this project, so there's a couple different permitting or permits we had to get. So there's an Eagle permit for the impacts to the wetland. We just got done with our public notice period. It expired on the 29th of June. And they send out a notice to everyone within 500 feet of the project. The only comment we got was from DNR, and it was just to use like environmentally friendly soil erosion controls. So didn't get any pushback from any of the residences. So we should be getting the actual permit in hand, I would expect, in the next couple of weeks. They're just, going through the process to complete it. We also are going to the Planning Commission on, I believe, the 14th of this month, where we will present, these impacts to them as well. And then we're going to the Zoning Board, I think it's on the 17th of this month, because we're crossing the Hoskins Drain, which resides in this wetland. So, and because we were crossing the Hoskins Drain, we had to get a permit from the drain office as well. So that's in hand as well. So those are the different permitting aspects that we had to do with this project. So with that, I will take any questions that you guys have.
Thank you. Questions from commissioners?
So, I was just looking at this photo. Is there, what's the width, or what's the amount of, the distance between the road and the wetland? Or does the wetland go all the way up to the road then?
So there's, I think, about a little over 10 feet, and it slopes down. So we did explore just building the pathway in that area. But the issues that we have with that is putting a pathway lower than the roadway is not, it's a safety concern for us. We want them to be elevated so that drivers can see it. There's also, you could see utility lines that line the area, so we'd really have to stick on the outside of it. So that kind of ruled out, going right along that existing green belt, just mostly for safety concerns. We did think about just doing a concrete pathway on the other side of the utility pole as well, and then filling in that area, which would be more of a wetland impact, and doing sheet pile retaining wall on the back end. But the drain office was not interested in that because it would obstruct their drain, and it'd be more wetland impacts too. So we ultimately decided on the boardwalk.
So how far in from the edge there, or does the boardwalk go?
From the boardwalk,
Yeah.
I believe it's about 25 feet, roughly.
Into the wetland?
Yeah, yep. Or 25 from the edge of the roadway. So it's, I guess, I don't know, Jack, if you can try to trace the edge of wetland line. It's that thick gray line. Yeah.
Oh, that's the wetland.
So really, it's not at points on the western side, it's only like a couple feet into the wetland, but then we kind of jog over because we have a water main in this area, and we want to avoid, putting the pilings over it. So on the other side, it looks like it may be 10 or 15 feet into the wetland on the east side.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the photos and I was like, wow, actually it's kind of a pretty nice wetland. So,
Yeah.
And then at first I was like, you know what? I think there are some turtles that could use it, including a rare one. And then I actually checked the database, because I actually work for Michigan Natural Features Inventory, and there was a turtle that was seen just this year in that wetland. There was a pond just to the east, the school pond.
Yep.
And I was like, there it is. It is found. So I would have suspected that species probably uses this wetland as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, given that, the road already, intersects that wetland, is there a culvert underneath the road then?
Yeah, there's a culvert that basically ties, there's a wetland to the south. You can kind of see it right there. It's like an equalization culvert between those two wetlands.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like a pristine wetland per se, since it's already being impacted by, the road
Right.
through it and whatever runoff is coming off of the road into that wetland. So I think if it's just pilings going in, and I don't know what, like, I guess my only concern would be the footprint of when the project is actually happening, of when the pilings are going in.
Yep.
And if there's any potential impacts to the wetland, and then if there's any potential impact, like, to, like, this particular turtle species then. But it looks like, is it August through August,
Yeah, we're
September?
planning to start in August so we can get it done in the dry season,
Okay.
before winter starts is the plan. Yep.
Yeah, so that's good, because they're already, if they were nesting there, I mean, these would be, the wetland, the species would literally be back in the wetland.
Okay.
And they're not gonna be up on land,
Gotcha.
I mean, they could be, but typically they would be in the wetland, especially that during really hot time of year, they're gonna be in the water mostly.
Right.
So, and it's not winter, so it might be okay, actually, time of year for that then. So when the actual project happens, like, what's the footprint of the project?
Yeah, so the footprint, so when they're constructing the boardwalk, so the boardwalk's 8 foot wide, we're gonna have another approximately 8 foot wide timber matting that's gonna be adjacent to it. So that will be temporary impacts to the wetland that they'll just lay out as they go, and drive their equipment over it, and once they're done, they'll remove it. So we did have to permit that with Eagle as well, make sure they were aware that that's the construction method we were gonna use. But yeah, it will be timber matting, and I think the total impact of that, I would have to double check, but I think it's like 0.065 acres. So it's, it's basically 8 foot wide times 325 linear feet. So I can't do that in my head, unfortunately, but, okay, yeah, Jack's got it up. So that should, 0.063.
0.06, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, what is timber matting? Do you guys, I don't know what that does.
It's basically wood that they lay out to
Huge
have.
beams.
Yeah,
Think oversized railroad ties
Yeah.
that are connected to each other
Okay.
as mats. And they lift them and put them down. That way the machine can drive on top of it. And then they pick it back up again.
So the
Right away.
machine can drive it even if it's over water? Is this over water or on soil?
it's over the wetland, so it's over water, so they'll have to make them,
stuck.
deep enough to support it. But it's better than them, just trying to drive machinery out into the wetland and ripping that up.
Yeah.
So it preserves it as best it can.
So what do you think the impacts would be on the wetland then with that?
So with the temporary
Yeah.
impacts, it's additional like 0.06 acres, so, but once they're done with it, they'll remove it and, the wetland will be just fine. It will, reestablish and whatnot, so nothing permanent is gonna be in place.
Is there like runoff or something from it then, or?
From the timber?
Yeah, or the machinery, I guess, that's gonna be?
I mean, I guess they would need to monitor the machinery for leaks. That would be part of their, safety inspections, but
Yeah.
there's not anything outside of like, an off-base like gas leak or oil leak. Nothing's gonna be being emitted from the machinery, so. But that would be part of their, daily inspections to make sure their equipment's in functioning order.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not a very small area, and I totally understand the reasoning for doing this. It's just unfortunate, because I feel like we're constantly trying to do these things through wetlands. It's just like, it's too bad there was no other, I get it, it's already been constructed, that other trail and stuff, and trying to connect to this, but it's just unfortunate that there was no other, like, alternative, because I feel like the more we do these little projects, even little bits, that get cumulative impacts, onto the wetlands. So, but again, it already has a road going through it, so I mean, it's not the totally pristine wetlands. So, and then I guess as long as we take these other measures to try to minimize the impacts of the the project itself in its short time periods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, it seems like a kind of question that could be directed to our wetland consultant to explain to us what the impact of placing and removing the timber matting is. Because if you haven't seen it, it can feel pretty intrusive, like there could be a lot of compaction and stuff. So that might be something for the future to ask for their consideration. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're fine. Speaking to the species of the turtle, I was wondering, is there a survey that's done to check habitat along in that area? Like, is that something standard that happens when we do these kinds of projects in the township? I don't know.
There are
I mean, especially if it's
determinations in my reading of what constitutes a protected wetland have to do with the soil and the vegetation present.
Okay. What about the
It's not
species?
typical to expect in a site visit a consultant to be able to inventory fauna.
Okay, interesting. It might be something that we should
Yeah.
consider, though, because I mean, is it threatened or the?
Well, so that's the thing is, it's only special concern right now, that species. So I think that for special concern, they're not required, like there's less stringent about that. And they're never really required, but they can do things to mitigate, like they can change the timing of when they do a project or, change the footprint of a project or, so if they couldn't do all that and it looked like there was going to be adverse impacts, then, then they might have to potentially do a survey. But typically, it's not required to do a survey. I mean, I would suspect, given how close that turtle was seen just this June, I mean, and it was not that far, I'm sure that it's probably using this wetland at some point in its life history, or, that I just don't know how many turtles there are in this area, but there's a lot, this turtle, there's quite a few of because Meridian Township has a lot of wetlands, and so there's been a lot of sightings of this species, in the township. So I think it's probably pretty safe to assume probably uses it, but the question is, can we mitigate the impacts or, reduce the impacts to the species?
Right. I was just thinking if that's prime habitat for its nesting and, where it lives, to get a sense of, like a survey done or something like that. That might be an opportunity for us as the Environmental Commission to think about if something, fauna or flora, like, you were saying, like, some is required, some is not. But, especially if it's on the watch list, like, we might want to think about suggesting that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So to add other elements to the discussion, reading between the lines, it looks like the original plan years ago was to actually extend the concrete pathway because it already extends a little bit adjacent to the wetland.
Yeah.
So I'm reading between the lines, but I assume the original plan was to continue that all the way to the driveway. But then included in our packet was a discussion of the fact that because of the slope there, because of the narrowness of that pathway, would be limited to maximum width, I think, of 5 to 6 feet. Mm-hmm. And the boardwalk, as planned, would be an 8-foot wide boardwalk. And for safety considerations, since we expect school children to use this as a corridor from the subdivision to the school, there has to be room in the pathway for essentially bicycle and pedestrian traffic and two-way traffic.
Yep.
So as a safety consideration, I think it's an important point that the wider pathway would be valuable. And the only way to do that would be to build it as a boardwalk, not as the existing surface sidewalk.
Yeah, exactly. It would be the easiest thing for us to do would to just be skirt the edge of the road and lay some concrete, but safety was our number one, especially with this being right next to a school. So absolutely.
And I think I would also add that elevated boardwalks along wetlands can be viewed as a positive, particularly for school-aged children, because it's an opportunity for them to view the wetland and to actually see what is happening in that area. And I certainly, when I go over the elevated boardwalk along this road, I'm always stopping along my way to look out over
Right.
over the wetland area. I think it's a positive.
I think, too, that came up
No,
that,
not seeing any more hands. Let me ask you a couple of technical questions, just out of mainly curiosity. As I understand it, helical piles are basically a huge screw that you screw down
Yep.
into the ground, and then the wood sits on top. And I presume that the easiest way to drive those is right next to the machine that's doing the driving. That parking that machine out in the road and reaching over and driving the piles would be prohibitive?
Yes, we explored that, because we explored that, and for one reason, it's costly to do the timber matting, right? But the big issue with that is there's electrical lines, and maybe Jack, if,
Yeah, I
can
can see them.
yeah, can you drop the little guy down there? You can be able to see the slope down too, but there's these, large electrical, we discussed with consumers potentially trying to de-energize them, but it wasn't going to happen with our timeline and costs and whatnot. So something we did explore, but unfortunately those overhead lines kind of prohibit it.
Sure. Thanks. The other one had to do with the culvert. Do you happen to know the dimensions of that culvert?
It's 12 inches. Yeah, it's pretty small.
It's presumably placed in such a way that it may or may not provide a permanent. What I'm driving at is, since you brought up the green space plan, is wildlife underpasses. And I'm curious whether that structure provides any of that functionality.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 12 inches right now, so I would say no.
Yeah.
But we did have many conversations with the drain office about this, and that's one thing they were looking forward to looking at, because they're gonna, I guess, redo the drain in this area. It's an upcoming project. So that's one thing that they brought up, is trying to get a safe way for the turtles to cross under, and they did bring up potentially upsizing this culvert. So I know they're exploring it. I don't know what they finally, decided on, or if they've made a decision yet, but that was one discussion.
Thank you. Please advocate for that on our behalf.
Yeah.
And there was one other thing that's now escaped me. We might consider at some point developing and funding some signage on that boardwalk. I think several of our boardwalks and others have those. And in terms of finding out how many turtles are in there, let a couple dozen school kids go past her every day, twice a day, and you'll find out pretty quick, right? And I don't know that we do any of that kind of, here's a URL, if you see something cool, take a picture and send it here.
That would be great.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I have a URL for you.
So those are the other thoughts I had.
I have one more question. Have we done this before in this kind of a wetland? Put a elevated boardwalk? The only reason I ask is because I think about the places where I've seen and walked on elevated boardwalks, because I've definitely done a lot of work in wetlands. And I was just curious about places where you have a lot of standing water. Like, I don't know how deep this wetland is.
Yeah, it's.
I think we have the
Yeah, we
contours
have
on here, right?
one right over on Okemos Road, pretty close. We did an elevated boardwalk across, standing water wetlands. So we have done it before.
And part of the phase one pathway also is on.
Yeah, it is on boardwalk. That one, when it floods, it could be in standing water, but most of the time it's pretty dry over there. Yep, I believe.
So it doesn't like sink? Because I don't know how.
No, they
the ground
basically,
is,
as Bill mentioned, the helicals are like a screw, so they have to screw it down basically until they get a specific torque.
Okay.
So we're expecting this project is probably gonna be at most in some areas like 20 to 25 feet deep they're screwing down, till they get to a soil that's suitable to support it and not sink.
I think you were talking about the timber mats area, or no?
Well, no, I was thinking about the boardwalk and just long-term, like, how
Yeah.
would this work exactly? And, you know,
The boardwalk on Oakhams Road is very high. This boardwalk, I'm just kind of guessing, wouldn't be as high, right?
It's gonna be about equal with the road. So above the existing wetland, I think at most it's like 4 feet above the
Okay.
water, so it's
Yeah.
gonna be pretty level, yep.
Yeah, okay.
All right, well, thank you very much for bringing this to us. I will entertain a motion to recommend approval. I believe there is a draft motion in our packet to that effect.
So I will move to recommend approval of wetland use permit number 25-02 to fill 28.36 square feet, or 0.00065 acres of regulated wetland to construct a pedestrian bicycle boardwalk pathway located on the north side of Bennett Road between the Schultz Veterinary Clinic and Bennett Woods Elementary.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Mixit, seconded by Commissioner Sarver. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, no? One opposed. The motion carries. Thank you very much for your work on this project. It's going to be an excellent addition to our township pathway system, much needed.
Thank you.
Moving on to unfinished business, I believe we have none, and that takes us to reports and announcements, starting with staff.
Alrighty. Yeah, just a quick look at what those piers look like at the very bottom. These are the very tips. They're connected to steel rails, and they just drive those all the way down. And once they hit, they're looking for a certain amount of resistance. And as soon as they find that, they know that it's not going to budge, depending on whatever the water level does around it. They're fascinating.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for a staff report here, I have an update on our green grants. Just a quick review. We had 6 grants that were approved this year. One for Cornell Woods HOA. This was for native plantings. They applied for $7,000 and were awarded $7,000. They have their signed agreement, and the PO has been created, so they'll be getting their first payment here in the next couple weeks. So that ball is rolling. The next was from the Girl Scouts Troop 30037. This was in relation to an outdoor classroom they were looking to restore. They applied for $1,000, received $1,000. They have completed their agreement, and the PO for that has been created. So they're in the process as well. The next was from the Montessori Radmore School. This was in relation to native plantings and a solar-powered pump. They applied for about $4,000 and were awarded that. They have been sent to their agreement form. We have not gotten that back yet. So as soon as they have the signed agreement, we will proceed with them. The next was from the Pine Creek Condo Association. And this was for the removal of invasive species. They applied for $1,000 and received $1,000. We have not received a W-9 from them, and I believe that is because they are preferring that this process goes not through them directly, but to Reclaimed by Design, who I think is executing their work. So I am in the process of, I've asked them for a contact at Reclaim from Design to get a W-9 from them and get that ball rolling. So that one is probably the furthest from being executed. The next was from the YMCA Parkwood branch. This was for the creation of a nature education space. They applied for $2,607 and received all of that. They have been sent their agreement. We are waiting for a signature from them. And the last one was from the Mid-Michigan Land Conservancy, also for native plantings. They applied for $2,500 and received all of that. They also have been sent their agreement, and we are awaiting a signature to proceed with that. So 2 out of the 6 grants have completed agreements and have their payments being processed. 1 is awaiting a W-9, and the other 3 are awaiting signatures on the agreements.
Thank you. Moving to, any questions for staff? All right. Moving to liaisons. Our township board liaison is not with us this evening. The Planning Commission has most recently been discussing a couple of special use permits and planned unit developments. The special use permit is for outdoor storage of materials at the Ace Hardware down in Okemos and Jolly. Think landscaping materials that they keep on the sidewalk, and they're supposed to be enclosed. And so, and another is Hewlett Road Estate, which is 5 more homes going in off of Hewlett Road. And the only real objection there was construction traffic on Hewlett. And if you know Hewlett Road, you know that that's one of the few neighborhoods in the township that has successfully gotten speed bumps that they wanted. So there's always somebody that stands up from that neighborhood and says, but the trucks. We're also working on the parking landscape discussion, how to encourage more green in our parking lots. And we've begun discussion of amending the township's ordinance on keeping of poultry, specifically the keeping of roosters, which is allowed by right in rural residential zoning. And most of us in single-family home live in residential, smaller residential categories, and they're not permitted. But there are a smattering of RR zoned areas in the township, such as around Tower Gardens, where theoretically somebody could want to keep roosters. But if you're next to a single-family residential small lot development, that could potentially be a challenge. And there's no decision been made on that. If there's no questions for the Planning Commission Land Preservation Advisory Board, what are you guys up to?
Bill, I've got a question.
Oh, yeah, go.
Yeah. Do you remember, this is a long time ago, somebody came to the Environmental Commission and wanted to add ducks to the ordinance? I don't know if you remember that proposal. I kind of assume nothing happened about that because we never heard anything more about it. And he wanted to increase the number of chickens, I think, by 1 or something. So the existing ordinance just covers chickens and rabbits, maybe?
I believe rabbits are often treated as pets and are not subject to the ordinance. And
Okay.
they also are kind of quiet, so nobody minds them.
Yeah, right.
We've got a whole herd of little tiny rabbits at our house this year. I don't know what happened, but the hawks are going to be really happy.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking of somebody who's raising rabbits, but.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, their meat's
So
better.
no ducks yet.
As far as I know,
Okay.
personally, I'm after the geese.
You're after the geese?
I'd like to be after the
geese.
geese. I'd like
many.
to expand our deer culling program
Okay,
to include geese.
yeah, okay.
There are many humane ways to control, to cull geese. And in many parts of the world, it's a very common food item. Not so much in this country, but in many parts of the world, it's a common food item. And
Is that,
there is a goose season. Hunting
done-
season.
is that done by any township or local government? Would we be the first?
Some of the parks will do geese roundups and stuff, and actually have lethal means of kind of
Oh,
control
okay.
the geese population. I don't know about local units of government, but I know like here in Clinton Metro Parks,
Okay.
they do like a geese roundup in some of their parks, like in the more urban areas
Yeah.
on a regular basis.
Okay. There's some precedent then for, yeah.
Yeah.
I was once working in West Africa, and one of my colleagues was convincing people to help clean out the city's sewers by giving them canned chickens. And the whole bonus, and they got a lot of takers. Sorry, I'm digressing. We're.
Oh, land preservation, yeah. So, Land Preservation Advisory Board met on June 11th. I think the main thing that would be of interest to the commission is that we continue to discuss updates and changes to the land preservation site screening criteria. So that's when we have a property or parcel that, we're evaluating for potential acquisition, we have this form that we usually go out and look at the site and then fill out with different criteria to kind of evaluate the property. And so we're in the process of updating those criteria because no one really likes that form. But anyway, it was brought up that they would like to bring, when we finish a draft of the revised criteria, to the Environmental Commission to get the commission's input and, review and stuff. So I thought this was a good idea. I'm assuming that that's good. Okay. I don't know if that's normally what happens, but anyway, I wanted to mention that and ask.
Thank you. In the past, members of the Environmental Commission were routinely drafted by the Land Pres Board to participate in the site visits.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Especially at a time when we had, certified forester and chemists and, engineers on the Township Environmental Commission. And I participated in a couple of those evaluations, and I'm delighted to hear that system is being revamped.
Okay. Good.
And that actually reminds me, I was going to mention during the wetland use permit discussion that we also typically did site visits of wetland use permit applications. Staff would contact the applicant and arrange for a date when the commission might meet there. If a quorum would present, then we would publicly notice it, but at least it'd give you a chance to get out there and see what's what. And of course, in a public place like this, you're always welcome to go and visit the site, and I'm sure many of us have just driven by it to have a peek again. But that's also an option in the future, to be able to see sites that are have applied for a permit.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. So we can certainly, I didn't realize that, but, we can certainly invite members of the commission, the Environmental Commission, when we do site visits, if people are interested. I didn't, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're always likely to get one or two takers.
Okay.
I remember visiting the Davis Foster Preserve just before it was acquired.
Okay.
And trying to figure out how in the world that place was draining. I think it was tiled. I was pretty sure it was tiled at one point.
Yeah, it's tiled at one point, yeah.
You don't happen to know if those tiles are still active?
I don't know, actually.
So I've read that in instances where valuable wetlands were drained and are then reacquired, if you can disable that drain system, you can start to recreate that original hydrology.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's not that hard. You just plug the pipe, and in many cases, they've already failed.
Yeah.
And it just sort of happens itself, because if you don't maintain clay tile, eventually it disintegrates.
Yeah. I'm not sure, actually. Yeah, we haven't really talked about that for Davis Foster.
I almost got the MSU RS and GIS drone to fly over it, because if you get it just at the right soil moisture, you can see where the drains are, especially in sandy soils. The soils are different colors. Anyway. Oh, I'm just digressing all over tonight. We're going for a speed record here, and I'm slowing us down. Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. I saw something in the minutes about some discussion of changing something.
Yes, the Hazlitt Village project came in at our last meeting. That's the project on the corner of Hazlitt Road and Marsh Road, which probably everybody there's a lot of pavement now. And they already had a brownfield plan approved. So they were coming in with an amendment to add that affordable housing TIF part. And if I remember correctly, it was significantly helping the economics of the project. And they of course described the project, but there's going to be like 5 apartment buildings, which has like 115 units, and 20% of them will be reserved for the affordable housing program, which would be 23. So there'll be 23 affordable units there. in addition to the apartment buildings, there's going to be 84 townhouses up for sale. They'll be sold. There's going to be one new commercial building constructed, and then that existing building, which used to be a video store, is going to be renovated into some sort of community hub.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also includes a trailhead. And I think what that means, right, is a restroom.
Picnic table, bike repair, restroom,
Yeah.
shade,
A couple pickleball courts, a dog park.
a dog park.
Yeah. So construction will begin in the fall and end in the winter of 2029. And,
It's a long time coming.
yeah,
They
So
must have
that's it.
knocked down L&L more than 10 years ago, yeah?
yeah, it's been a long time, yeah.
I don't remember.
And this- Well, you know, the change to the policies about this affordable housing TIF was fairly recent. And I think that everybody knew that this would be coming in. That may be one of the reasons that I'm speculating that the township board maybe thought that maybe that affordable housing TIF wasn't a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the report.
Thank you. Any other questions for John? Parks Commission.
So the last meeting of the Parks Commission was on June 10th. I unfortunately was not able to attend that meeting, and no minutes or agenda have been posted, so I don't have any information on that, but I'll report back when I do learn more.
Thank you. Moving on to teams, energy.
Well, we had our Energy and Green Fair on June 21st at the Farmers Market. And Jack was very helpful in making it happen and kind of our liaison with all the logistics and all the other things you have to do with tables and all that sort of stuff, chairs and whatever. But we had a table for the energy and the green teams was shared. And so I was there, and Roger Eberhard and Tom Fraser and Harrison was there too a lot of the day, kind of answering questions. We had quite a bit of traffic, I thought. Yeah, it seems like we were always kind of engaged with somebody who was asking questions and chatting about things. And the Consumers Energy was there with their electric vehicle staff and their Ford F-150. And Michigan Interfaith Power and Light was there to talk about their programs. Absolute Solar was there talking about the technology and the upcoming Solarize meeting, which is going to be July 23rd, 6 to 8 p.m. at Edgewood United Church. And there is going to be residential focus, but actually this is the first meeting for Solarize that there will also be a focus on nonprofits, businesses, churches. So they're kind of expanding and making the program available to non-residential. And let's see. That's about it.
Great, thank you. Always lots of energy coming from the energy team. I believe our green team representative is not with us this evening, nor food composting team.
But Harrison,
I can add a bit about
green
team.
Green team.
Mostly the same as what Sarver just said. The energy fair went really well. It was a very hot day, I will say, and so sometimes traffic. We did get way more than I was expecting for the weather, but it was a grueling day at points. But it's always nice being right next to the farmers market. Yeah, we had a meeting. What day was it? The 12th of June. Just a very general meeting. We went over our next few events, primarily the fair, and then thinking about recycling event, electronic recycling event, early fall. But we're in the preliminary stages, and then navigating Leroy's retirement. With him being gone, things are a little bit different because we have less of a connection to the township. And he has so many resources and knowledge. So yeah, he attends meetings, but through retirement, which is of course different. But yeah, it was a good meeting, and other than that, we haven't had much.
Great, thank you. Sorry, I tried to skip over you.
No, you're
Anybody
fine.
want to talk about food and composting? I'll talk about it all day, but I other to report. Nor green burial, but on that topic, one of my colleagues the other day mentioned green burial, and I told him, yeah, they're doing it in Williamston. He said, really? And 2 days later, he came back and said, okay, we met with the sexton, and we're getting ready to, buy our plots, and they've got all the list of all this stuff, and so there's definitely a demand out there, and Williamston seems to be meeting it, or at least responding to the need, so, and stuff. How about the high school?
Pretty limited now that we're into summer. When I say pretty limited, I mean nothing. Yeah, I haven't done anything. I've met up with friends who are interested in some of the same circles that I'm in, but in very casual settings and just thinking about next year, but nothing to report.
Okay. We still have no public to make comments. Other matters and commissioner comments. Anybody have anything they'd like to add extemporaneously at this point? I will mention that I had sent Jack some comments, questions about wetland use permits, just trying to get my brain back in up to speed on how the process works, and I ended up getting a reply from Director Schmidt, Planning Director Schmidt, saying that the staff had been looking at our wetland protection ordinance and wondering if there were some ways that it could be streamlined or made more clear or less onerous on applicants, and promised to address that at a future meeting with us, give us staff's thoughts, and get some back from us. So and first of all, to summarize, the procedure differs depending on what the project is. So if the project is a change in land use and requires a special use permit, then ultimately it would be either the planning commission or the township board that would approve that wetland use permit as part of the special use permit process. And it's not easy to understand all those, but if Tim explains it to us, we'll all understand. So that's coming, and if you have thoughts about how you'd like to see that changed, that'll be our opportunity to do that.
So is he saying that are you guys gonna talk about it at the planning commission, or is he gonna
Start
come
here.
here? Oh, start here, okay. That'd be great.
There was already one minor change that was made to equalize the wetland setback requirements so that you didn't have different people having more or less onerous requirements on them. But I think we're thinking more of other changes to the process. So I'm not exactly sure what his thoughts are, but that.
Hey, Bill, is there any, I mean, I understand the interest in making things a little streamlined and simpler. Are there any other issues that is prompting a kind of a relook at the ordinance, or is it strictly just to try to make things go a little more smoothly?
I will quote rather than trying to summarize.
Okay.
The first issue he mentions is that the floodplain ordinance contains a de minimis impact that is allowed without a permit, and our wetland ordinance does not. Even if the impact is trivial, you still have to get a permit, and we may not require you to do any mitigation, but there isn't an acceptable impact. You can't take a shovel full of soil out of a wetland or throw a shovel full in. Okay? But when we're talking about a floodplain, then we have a different standard. So that is the kind of thing that causes planners to worry about lawyers. And the rest of the discussion was all procedural.
Yeah. And is the kind of the policy with the floodplain pretty clear cut, or is that kind of a complicated issue, or don't you know?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it. I'm guessing that someone exercises the discretion to say, yes, that's a de minimis impact.
Yeah.
We're going to let you slide. And probably that derives from some precedent that gets
Yeah.
set.
It's probably the planning director, right? Who-
Well, normally, if there is no change in land use in a case like this one, that authority to approve a wetland use permit resides with the planning director. If there's also some additional change in land use, then there's a different body makes that decision. In any case, we're asked for our opinion. We don't make any decisions on them. We only recommend either to the director, planning commission, or the township board whether we think a permit should be issued.
Good.
And I could wax on about that all night, but I'm not going to.
And maybe you mentioned this, when's this coming up to us? It's coming soon,
In the
or
future.
what, sometime in the
In
future?
the future, yeah.
Okay.
My sense is that the department is looking at all sorts of portions of the code. And we've been, at the planning commission, working on some, like the parking ordinance I was talking about, and others. And that's kind of one of his main goals, as I see it as planning director, is to rationalize or clean up or make more consistent our ordinances.
I think that, there are some members of the Land Preservation Advisory Board who might be interested when he presents and have that discussion. So I don't know if it'd be possible to, get like advance notice so that I could let the Land Preservation Advisory Board folks know.
Yeah, I can certainly ask that he also let them know when we get that scheduled.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else anybody would like to add to our discussion this evening? If not, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. We're under an hour. And thank you so much for the great job. I watched part of the video from last month. And I have a standing rule not to watch